If we can lead by example, other people will naturally want to follow you. People follow success, but success comes from hard work and dedication.
Start working on turning your dreams into a reality. It starts with you taking action on your own life.
And this ain't something that you try. I'm gonna try to do this. No, this ain't nothing you try. This is something that you do. And come hell or hot water, you're not backing down from it.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are tuning in from in the country. My name is Renee Jeffries. I will be hosting today's WIN webinar, Vice President of Field Operations. I have here with me my co-host, Natalie Linker, Senior Sales Director, as well as our very special guest, Sasha Oaks, who I will introduce in just a moment. So before we jump into things, just want to go over a couple of house-cleaning things as usual every month. As you guys are aware, this is a webinar format, so we cannot see all of your beautiful faces, but we would love for you to still be able to interact with us. So I'm going to activate the chat if it's not already activated, and we allow you to communicate with us through the chat, obviously positive stuff only. And then if you have any questions for Sasha as she's going through her speech with us today, you're going to want to put those questions in the Q&A. We are going to leave about 15 or so minutes at the end of today's webinar open for Q&A. Because of the amount of feedback that we usually get throughout the chat, we do ask you, please make sure it's in the Q&A. Otherwise, we are unable to get them answered for you. So Q&A are for questions, and then we'll get them answered. And then chat is for anything else. If you want to give us a shout out, let us know where you are tuning in from. So without further ado, I want to introduce our very special guest, Sasha Oaks. And just a little backstory here. So, we had this fall SGA meeting last week, and things were just really hectic. And I asked Natalie for some extra help on just making sure we can lock down our next WIN speaker. And I said, I always see Tommy Vina posting a lot of really strong women on his social media. Maybe we can reach out to Tommy Vina and see who he has for us. So long story short, I got a list of women to be, oh, hey, Fred. Men are welcome too. So I got a list of speakers that I'm definitely going to be hitting up after Sasha, but Sasha was who we decided on reaching out to first. Come to find out, I actually had an opportunity to meet Sasha and work with her. It was 14 years ago, I think, Sasha. Yeah, 14 years ago. We actually worked together in the Simon Arias agency, but 14 years ago, she didn't look any younger than she does right now. She's beautiful back then as she is now, but she had short, super short, pitch black hair where I almost didn't recognize her, and she's been married, so I didn't recognize her by her last name either. So I'm like, this is crazy. Here I am thinking I'm meeting her for the first time, and I was trying to dig up old pictures for us to start off today's webinar, and unfortunately couldn't find any 14 years ago. That shoebox is somewhere hidden. So quick background on Sasha. She's actually been with the company for 2 years now with the Tommy Vina agency. I think this month actually marks your 2-year anniversary. She is a mother of 5 children, ages 11, 9, 8, and 6. So if you see anyone running around in the background like Fred just was in Natalie's screen, it's going to be one of her children. She's married to Jerry Oaks, who is her best friend. She, prior to American Income, was a district operations supervisor at LA Fitness. And when she had her first child, decided that she wanted to stay at home and take care of her children. And in that time, she actually started her own business in the luxury resale industry. Then when COVID hit, she actually decided to find her way back to American Income, where she started with the Tommy Vina agency in November of 2021. Her hobbies and interests is spending time with her husband, who is her best friend. That just makes my heart melt to hear. She enjoys sports, playing softball her whole entire life, traveling, going to any sporting event or game, interior design, painting, drawing, and spending time with her kids. Her significant career highlights with American Income in the last 2 years. She actually had her essay numbers in just 2 weeks of being released in the Vina organization. She is a President's Club member, a Founders Club member, as well as a Pinnacle Recruiting Club member. She is back-to-back March Madness winner in her agency and has won pretty much any contest that has been thrown her way in the organization. So I'm super, super excited to hear from you, Sasha, 14 years later, and learn from you as well. So welcome to WIN, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you for that introduction. And first and foremost, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm honored, thank you for Tommy for, giving me that opportunity, and Natalie and Renee. So you pretty touched on like my background. Growing up, I'm an only child, so I didn't have anybody to blame anything on. So I had to take ownership for absolutely everything, and still in my adulthood. But one of the biggest things when I look back is my grandmother. She was a survivor of the Holocaust, and her whole entire family, was killed. And the biggest thing is she came to America and it was opportunity. She looked at everything as an opportunity. She never looked at anything as being a victim. And that's who I look up to. And that's what I look back, and really what helps me in this business is not having a victim mentality of things are happening, to you, they're happening for you. So as Renee stated, I started off at Arius 14 years ago, but I was in college. It was just kind of a thing to do, like recruiting. I was a recruiter, things everybody loves doing, right? Making phone calls, recruiting, and, went back to school. And then kind of left it, maintain those relationships and contacts, but started at LA Fitness, worked my way up, and then I had my first child. And I look back and, I thought, okay, well, you can always go back to work, but you're never going to have that time back with your kids. So the first thing that I did is when I had my child, everyone's like, all your time's going to be tied up. And I'm sitting there and used to working all the time and playing sports and always being active. I'm like, he sleeps all day. I'm completely bored. I have nothing to do. So I decided to start my own business. And I did that for a long time. And then, really the pandemic hit. Your ROI is a little bit different. Things change. So that's the first thing that I thought of, was to contact Simon, because I heard that American Income now has gone virtual because of the pandemic. And so actually I contacted his wife, Natalie, and I contacted Simon, and of course he welcomed me with open arms, and whatever I have to do, let's get you started in your courses. And I was really excited to get started. What can I do being a mom and staying at home? This was the perfect opportunity for me. So that's what really got me into this. And then in that same week, my husband really lost his job and he had to relocate. So now I'm starting a new career. My husband's relocating in a different state, North Carolina. I'm in Pennsylvania. He has to go to North Carolina. And we have a blended family of 5 children that have to stay here with me. So this is where there's a little bit of a twist to a story. So let me tell you, my story getting into not American Income, but the Vena agency is going to be completely different than anything you've probably ever heard. And you might get off of this thinking I'm a little bit nuts. But so my husband's ex-wife, friends with Tommy's wife, started working for Tommy, the Vena agency, based out of Illinois, but she lives obviously in Pennsylvania. So I get a call from her when she hears that I'm going to be starting to work for Simon, working for American Income. And I get a call from her saying, you can't do that. You can't go work for him. And of course, me naturally, I'm sitting here thinking, like, who does she think she is, calling me, telling me what I can do? Like, oh, I can't do this. So in that, perspective, mind you, we have a blended family, and it's hard enough on a personal level trying to make things work. And we were not at good terms, just full transparency, whenever I got that phone call. So naturally I'm in defense mode. But that really opened up my eyes, because she said, you can't do this, because we have to figure things out on a personal level, and we haven't figured that out yet. And now on a business level, we're going to be competing as well. How is this going to be good for our family, our situation? Because we have to raise children basically together, right? So naturally, I go and discuss this with my husband, because she's like, hey, listen, I know that you have this commitment to Simon, but I really think that if you go off and do that, that's really going to put everybody at odds. We have to figure this out. Let's work as a team together, and take this as an opportunity and as a challenge. So naturally, I discuss it with my family. I discuss it with my husband, and they all, of course, are like, what are you thinking? Like, How is that ever going to work? That's not going to work. Absolutely not. Like stereotypical, like, how could you ever make this work? So I got a piece of paper. I weighed out all the pros, all the cons. And there was a lot more cons. There was probably triple cons than there were pros of really like transitioning, making this change. But I also recognized myself and recognized, I didn't want to be stagnant. And for me to grow as a person, to grow as a mom, to grow as a wife, just to grow in general, I have to step out of my comfort zone. And I have to be comfortable being uncomfortable in every single situation. So I not only, decided to like, okay, let's do this. Let me, step out of my comfort zone, take on this opportunity while we're not even on good terms at all, but let's figure this out. And then, by the way, not only are you going to be working for the same company, but you're going to be working underneath her. So she's my GA and I'm the agent. So let's just take that to like another level. So, so that in itself, now that I look back, now what was I thinking? But, so then I'm just like, okay, it's okay. The only title that I care about is Mrs. being a wife and being a mom, right? Everything else, your perspective drives your performance, right? So, that's where the plot really thickened. So you gotta figure it all out. And I have to put everything aside. You have to close all the doors behind you to really pave the path to your future. And you don't know, what the next door of opportunity is going to open up to. And I looked at this as an opportunity to grow. What's the worst that can happen coming out of this? It's not going to get any worse than it is right now, but there's potential that it can get better, right? So if I were to listen to what everybody else said, if I were to listen, my husband was the only person, and mind you, this is his ex-wife, that said, I trust your decision, whatever you feel comfortable in doing. But if I listened to everybody else, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you today, probably. So take that in a business perspective. How many people have everyone chirping in their ear? You should just do a 9 to 5. Don't work commission, 1099. You're working these crazy hours, everything of that sort. You got to tune it all out. Society's perception of normal. Do you want to be normal? Do you want to be average? Do you want, to live that, average life that everybody else wants for you? So you have to tune everybody out and really tune into who you are and who do you want to become. So I embraced all of those challenges, and I was surrounded by people that had my back and that weren't on my back per se. So, my husband, he's my biggest supporter. Always have to like say, things for him, even from afar. We didn't get to see each other much, but the biggest thing in going into this, and that I can say and give advice to people, is you have to go into it knowing that there isn't a fallback plan, right? Like as a mom, I don't have a fallback plan. Once you have 2 kids, you're outnumbered in hands. What do you do with a third? Like you just figure it out, right? So you have to go into it full force, knowing that there's no fallback plan. I have to make this work. I have to make this happen. And, the opportunity in itself is bigger than one individual person. So that's how I stepped into that mindset, instead of going into it of, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make it work? My husband is, 9 hours away. I have 5 kids by myself. I could have listed every single reason why this isn't going to work for me. But instead, using those reasons to drive you and how you can make things possible. So, when things get hard, that's when you get better, and that's when you learn. So, moving into that, I started training, obviously. Now, let me tell you, whenever, they saw, Sasha Oaks and then Austin Oaks, of course, everyone's like, oh, you guys must be sisters. Best rapport builder. I tell Austin all the time, you need to be on all of my sits, because like we have like 15-minute conversations with people and they're just like, Like, you got them. Like, you just told your whole family story. So I'm like, well, let me tell you, do you want to know the real story, or do you just, yeah, we can act like we're sisters, right? So, we'd be like, well, actually, and I think that's in training. I saw so much success because I would tell her all the time, like, we got so many referrals, people opened up to us, like so much success, a lot of sales. And, I'm ready to be released. And I said to her, I said, I don't think I'm ready to be released. And she's looking at me like, what do you mean you're not ready to be released? Like, you have like 100 referrals. We had, 6 sales, like you did some on your own. And I said, but I only saw success, really. I'm not prepared. I'm not always going to have that. I said, I'm not ready to be released. I was successful in training, but that's not reality. I know that there's going to be a lot of like shitty situations. There's going to be a lot of no's. There's going to be a lot of, people that I want to learn how do I deal with that? So for me, I recognize that what is going to make me grow is learning from failure. So she's like, okay, so, I wanted to get in all the bad phone calls. I wanted to get in all the bad presentations, all the presentations that, are doing wrong. So that's the only way that I'm going to grow, because I was so used to yes, 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 having, happy, rapport with people, thinking that we're probably nuts. How's this ever going to work? And then, getting into that, being on my own, I wanted to learn from failure. So I held myself back in training because I just wanted to be there 24/7 with all the bad phone calls, all the hangups. How do you prepare yourself for that? So, that's if I will say anything to you of having any agents in training or being in training yourself, training isn't always the best because they have all the sales or collect all the referrals. It's what are they going to do with them when you're not there, right? How are they going to take that when you're not there, when you're not around? Did we train them on how to face adversity? Did we train them on how to, do those rebuttals by example? So whenever I train people now, I tell them, I hope we get into a presentation and this person is mad, or they, do this or that, because that's where you're going to learn. You're not going to learn by just all the yeses and all the sales. So as Renee mentioned, I got released, and I hit my essay numbers in 2 weeks. And for me, having a paycheck, I remember within the first 2 months, one of my paychecks was like $9,000 for the week. And I'm thinking, like, this opportunity is so much bigger. Of course, it's not going to be all the positives, but this opportunity is so much bigger. You have the capability that your input is going to determine your output. And I know that I can't compete with everybody on this call or everybody in the company, but I compete with myself. I need to be 1% better than who I was yesterday. And that's in every area of my life. Because if I sat here and looked at everybody else or tried to compete with everybody else, I have 1/4 of the time that they have to get the job done. So just putting things in perspective, having kids, being a blended family, there's 3 different school districts. I spent 4 hours and 25 minutes driving to and from school and sports every single day. That is my life, driving to school. My daughter's in kindergarten. Of course, I don't know why they do 2-hour kindergarten. It's like just there to like shake hands, give candy, color a picture and leave. But, hey, that's what I got to do. I got to do. So how can I make these 4.5 hours? There's really like no work-life balance there. However, I can't be in a presentation, but what can I do in these 4.5 hours, right? I can call interviews. I can still be in Zoom from my phone, listen to in the call room. So in balancing, you're really just blending. So not to mention that you get home and then you have homework and you have dinner. So really, I have probably 3 hours in a day to really do presentations. And let me tell you, some people would be like, well, I can't do that. That's impossible. Like, how can you do 3 hours? How can you be successful? What if you get 3 no's? And well, why look at it from the negative perspective? You have to look at it from the positive. Let me tell you, the weeks that I had my children, and all 5 of them, were the best weeks that I've ever had. When I had time to myself, I didn't do very well. When you want something done, you want to give it to the busiest person in the room. because they don't have time to, you know, okay, I'll do it later. They don't have time to procrastinate. There's not enough time in the day to think. You just do, you just go, 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 go. So, you know, I had such limited time to get things done. But, you know, it's, you know, they say that, you know, giving it to the busiest person in the room, but it wasn't all, you know, ice cream, rainbows, butterflies. Whenever I would get into a presentation, I told Renee and I told Natalie, having 5 kids, a blended family, and not having the resources at that time to pay for a babysitter or anything else, locking yourself in a room doing a presentation, someone's bound to get a bloody nose, right? So let me tell you a story a little bit, and it might be a funny story. I'll tell you maybe a couple stories. So this is my first week getting released. I'm nervous as it is, and I'm in a presentation with an older couple. Okay. And, you know, I'm going through the presentation, and behind me, it was a little bit different than my background now. So behind me, you know, I tell my kids, I'm like, hey, listen, go get a shower. You're old enough, like, go figure it out, get yourselves ready for bed. Apparently there were no towels, like, for my son. So I'm in this presentation, and the door opens, but you don't see anybody, like, you know, in the door. You see on the floor, because he knows, oh, I can't bother mom, like, she's in a presentation. So my son is army crawling on the floor. And mind you, the way that my computer was set up, like, it was a little bit down, so you could see, you could see him. So he's army crawling, and he's butt naked, like, just, and I'm looking and I'm like, what is he doing? Like, he's on the floor, and he's like, can they see me? I'm like, oh yeah, they can see you. Mm-hmm. And he gets up. I'm like, oh, he's up. Naked, fully gets up. And, you know, the couple in front of me, thank God they were grandparents, and they're just dying laughing, like hysterically laughing. And he's like, there's no towels. And I am like beet red. I don't even know what to say. I'm trying to hide, like, go from, like, you know, here to there. I look like I'm in Pilates class or something, trying to block him. And, you know, he's just butt naked. He needed a towel. So then after that, I'm like, how do I finish this presentation? I'm so sorry. You know, what happens on Zoom stays on Zoom. I don't know what to say right now. And they're like dying laughing. And then that was a pivotal moment that I realized that humanizes you. They're no longer sitting in front of a salesperson. They're sitting in front of a mom who's trying to figure it out, make things happen. And now their perception of me is completely different. And let me tell you, that meeting, it went well. You know, everything opened up. We're laughing, we're joking around. But that's what I will say in everything. How can you separate yourself from every other person that they ever sat down with? And for me, when I'm with my clients, or even when I'm on a phone call, anybody that knows me knows that I'm a very real, you know, transparent, blunt person. And people can sense when you're being salesy, when you're trying to, you know, push them. And I'm just real with people. I have a great show ratio whenever I book myself, because I'm just realistic with them. Typically, we sit in front of moms, grandparents, families. You know, if I'm at football practice running a little bit late for a presentation, I call them. I don't say, hey, my meetings are a little bit back to back. I know based on their, you know, beneficiary card or their family situation, you know, hey, Joe, Mary, I'm so sorry. I know that we gave, you know, about a half an hour, 45-minute gap, but I'm just running home from my son's football game. I'm trying to balance everything out. So is 6:45 going to be okay for you? Oh, you know, how old's your son? And it just humanizes you. I had people say, oh man, whatever time works for you, you're the busy one, right? So separate yourself from anybody else that they've ever talked to. And that's the biggest piece of advice that I can give you as a mom, as a parent, as really anything, is just be real. People appreciate being real and being transparent. So, you know, I can go on with stories and stories. One time I forgot to hit the mute button. You know, my kids are acting up, and I'm like chirping, yelling, screaming, actually, to be quiet. And then I look and I'm like, oh, I was not muted. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And they're just like dying laughing. And I'm just like, man, wow, that was embarrassing. But I'm sure that you can appreciate, I'm sure you can understand being, you're a grandparent, right? But getting into presentations too, I tell everyone in our agency or anybody on the call, look at having kids as like, you all can borrow some of mine. I'll rent them out because it's the best for presentations. My daughter pops in majority of them and probably closes half of my deals because, like I said, it humanizes you. But every presentation that I would start, it's the easiest, rapport, getting to know them within 2 seconds. Like I would start every single presentation of like, hey, first and foremost, before I get into anything, I just want to let you know, I have 5 children. So if any one of them come bebopping around or you see anybody sprint in the background, I do apologize. Can you relate? Do you have any kids? Do you have any grandkids? And it's the like most natural, easy way for them to break down that guard and be like, oh man, you have 5. Are they boys, girls? What are their ages? And then they're giving me their whole life situation, their whole family, their great grandparents and 17 grandchildren, and I'm getting all of their names and all within, an immediate my story, right? You don't want to talk about yourself during that. You want them to open up. But a lot of the times we have a really hard time when we're in presentations getting those, referrals or getting that rapport. A lot of people are very, very dry. And for me, I look at that as, having kids and having them run around and walk around. And instead of yelling at them, sometimes I'm like, man, Nora really needs to come in here because these people are like being really dry right now. Like I need a child. So use those things that you perceive as negative and turn them into positive. So if I can say that, and if anybody that's a mom on here or a family or anything, take that situation and turn it into how can I look at this for it to benefit me instead of looking at it as more of a detriment. Don't make excuses. Use it as your why. So as I said, kids humanize you. Everybody can relate and everything that you're doing. So never did I look at any of this as a setback for me. I always looked at this as this is such an opportunity. What other opportunity am I going to get that I can make the income, build the relationships, and get the knowledge and work amongst some of the most successful people and working around my schedule? And, I must take a step back and say, like, my whole entire upline, my, Tommy, my state director, everybody was so understanding and so accommodating because that's just the natural people that they are. And they helped me grow, but also I would never commit to something that I know that I couldn't do. If we're having a push week and I know that I only have, 15 hours to actually, get to work. Yeah, everyone throwing out numbers of I'm going to hit 50,000 or 100,000. That sounds great. But what am I capable of doing? What am I going to know 100% no matter what I'm going to commit to? And I always hit my commit because that's my word. That's your word is everything. So I think they knew that, but I have a great upline. Everybody that I work with, our quality team, every single person in the agency, we all work together. So, what opportunity am I going to have where I can be with my kids? I can, still work and make a living. There isn't any. I can't name any. Everyone looks at things of, you might hear 10 no's, 5 no's, but you have one presentation that can turn your week around and your month around, depending on the referrals that you get from that. And I know that you always have to look at it as the glass is half full in everything that you do. But also I want to win. I'm a competitor. My husband, he played professional baseball. He's a baseball coach. There's no like, Sasha, if there's a competition, like, see ya, lock yourself in the room. You're going to win that. So, he's the supporter, but then I also have that competitive drive in myself too, where I always want to win. I always want to be the best, but I know that I have to compete more so with myself. So how to make the most out of your time. For me, having 1/4 of the time that really everybody else has to do, I have to be effective and I have to be efficient. So if you're not growing, you're dying. So what are you doing in your schedule to have, self-care, mind, body, and spirit, you don't necessarily have to be growing in every single area, but at least one area in your life. So that's really important, to take care of yourself first and foremost. You always put the mask on yourself for you to be able to take care of others, right? But biggest thing for me was having a schedule, knowing my schedule and laying it out the night prior. Okay, this is my obligations to do with my children. This is my schedule where I'm at right now. But also knowing there's some days that I couldn't run at all in the evening and I could only run in the morning. Well, organize your leads. So I would go through my leads at night and I would organize them. Who on my beneficiary card, if you have union leads, is, maybe 55, 60 and above. I know that I'm going to maximize because I'm going to be able to call them more so in the day and they're going to be available. If I would look at a beneficiary card and it would be, a husband and their wife is their beneficiary, I know that probably they're not going to be available until the evening, especially to get them together, to get them into an instant meeting. So, I would put a drop by appointment, let's say for a month out of, okay, on, December 1st, these are all the people that I can call in the morning. And then December 15th, these are all the people that I can call in the evening. And then I would have one where it would be like a beneficiary card, what would be like a brother or somebody. Might not always be the case. They might be married, but I'm trying to organize them and gear that situation to the best that I can. So that was really, really helpful for me in organizing my leads based on their age and their family situation that I can just see from their, policy or their beneficiary card. So, I would map out my schedule, know your call to contact, know your, call to book, know all your numbers. And know your numbers too. If you're very strong with referrals, obviously that's a little bit less. But for me, the biggest thing is also delegate things that, are you can duplicate yourself. So I have 2 callers. I know that throughout the day, driving this and that, 3 hours a day, I have to dedicate that to appointments. But if I'm calling 3 hours a day, is my time really being the best used? Your show ratio is never going to be the best unless you're booking it yourself. But I would have 2 callers booking at times that knew that I could run. I would double book. I would be very careful what I would double book. I wouldn't double book a union with a policy holder or, I wouldn't double book a policy holder with a policy holder or a policy holder with a referral, but I would book a union with, a policy holder, union with a referral, because I'm going to take the referral or the policy holder. And then I know I can, if both of them show up, I can toss the union or, whatever the case may be. So I was really detail oriented with how I would book the leads, and organizing the leads and mapping everything out and having 2 callers balancing out and calling at the times that are the most effective. Also, my callers have been with me since I started. I don't have a turnover with them because they get more excited than I do. Let me tell you, if I'm like, hey, there's a competition, this and that, like I get them involved in everything. I get them excited to do, everything. They, at the end of the night, they want to know who showed, who they have to call, everything, because, you take care of the people that are taking care of you. Giving bonus structures to them and everything. So take care of your people is really the biggest thing that I can say. And one of the things going back, and I'm sorry if there's so much that I feel like I want to go over with you guys, and I don't mean to bounce around, but the biggest thing whenever you're busy and have a busy schedule and have limited time to do things is work-life balance is something that everybody always says, like, how do you have a work-life balance? The first thing that you need to do, and I tell everybody, is have non-negotiables. What are your non-negotiables? Because no matter what, if you lay out to me, if I'm hiring you and you tell me this is my non-negotiable, then I can't, come back to you on that. My non-negotiables were, I never get to see my husband, and I rarely, I want to spend quality time with my kids. So no matter what, family dinner is important to me. That's family time. So my non-negotiable was dinner. I have to make dinner for my family, my husband. So that's a non-negotiable. It might be different for you. It might be, having a date night, no matter what, Saturday night, date night, that's non-negotiable. Because you have to, if you're putting, 120% in, there's not really a work-life balance because you're always going to be neglecting and sacrificing something else or somebody else. But knowing that if my husband knows that I'm go Monday through Friday, but then Saturday is our time together and that's our date night, he knows that that time is set aside for him. And no matter what you're doing or where you are, you have to be present. So in those non-negotiables, be present. Put your phone to the side and have dinner with your family. Spend that time with your children, do homework with your children. When you're on date night, have a true date night with your husband or your significant other. So, there's a lot of blending in this. When I say blending, because what is balance? Is everything really completely balanced or symmetrical? No, you're always going to have a sacrifice. But to me, the one thing in life that you can't get back is time. We can always make more money, but we can never make more time. And knowing what motivates you. I'm not motivated by money. Money doesn't motivate me. But you need money in life to have time, because money will buy you time. So I know that I need to make money to have that time, because time's the most important thing in my life, time with my family. I need money to have that time. So, really think about what drives you, what's motivating you, and what's important to you. And if you have those non-negotiables put in place of no matter what, I'm going to have to sacrifice my time at work for this time with my family, it's going to make work not seem like work, because you have something to look forward to. But then on the other side of it, if you have a commitment, for me, if I made a commitment to somebody and, it's a push week or a run week, if I don't hit my commitment, that's my word. And my husband knows, my family knows, hey, if I don't hit my commitment, I got to go. Like this week, I got to go. So balance, I wish that I had an easy answer or like a go-to answer of how to balance. And it's really sacrificing. You sacrifice in the beginning to have more time later. And for me, I sacrificed a lot of time in the beginning, and my time wasn't just a normal day of 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's what did I do after 9 p.m. that really made a difference? My kids are in bed, my husband's in bed. I'm on Zoom with, my upline who are, men too. And I was like, what are you on Zoom 1 a.m. for? But it's mastering your craft, being better. If I sat down with somebody that was in the Veterans Association and I don't know how their benefits work, that bothered me. And I need to know, and I need to do all my homework and all my research so that never happens again the next time. So for me, like, I love learning. I love, knowledge. I always want to be growing. So it was what I did after 9 o'clock that really benefited me and, made that a lot easier too when I would get into presentations and be confident, because I knew no matter what anybody asked me or what they said to me, I'm either going to find the answer or I'm going to have the answer to it. So biggest thing is prioritizing your schedule, and, having those non-negotiables, I think will really, really help, but then communicate that with your upline, with your colleagues and everything else of that sort. There's a study, and I have it saved in my phone. It's called The Lesson, and it says, make room for what's important. And they put it in perspective of like a glass jar and rocks and sand and water. And it says, take care of the rocks first. The things that really, really matter and that are critical to your long-term well-being and happiness. And if you deal with the big issues first by putting all the rocks in the jar first, the small issues, they'll all just fall into place. But if you do the reverse, it's not true. And really think about that. The big things we usually tend to procrastinate. And then we want to deal with all the little small things, and we leave the big things to procrastinate. And then we wonder why everything is not falling into place. So taking ownership of things, being accountable, and having a set schedule and having those non-negotiables, if I can say anything, is really, really what helped me. And the biggest thing is blending things. Think about, okay, you're working a regular, 9 to 5 Christmas party, but it's date night, and, you have this work event, but you have date night with your spouse. Well, naturally, what are you going to do? You're going to blend the two together, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, knock out the night at work, obligation, and then you're going to bring your spouse along and you're going to knock out date night too. You have to look at this as well as like, what can I blend together of, okay, I have, obligations to my family, or I'm out doing this or that. What can I blend together so I have more of a balance? So I feel like I'm still accomplishing something. and you have to put the guilt aside. I learned a long time ago, being a mom and a wife and everything else of that sort, I have to put all of that guilt aside that I'm not there for them currently in this moment. But whenever I am there, I have to be present. There's a big difference of just being a body and then being present. So I might have little time with them, but the time that I do have is quality time and I'm present with them. And that's the most important thing, because time gets diluted when we feel like we have to be 10 other different places. And then we're not really there. And then it's not really benefiting anybody, because they're like, Mom, did you see my goal? Mom, did you see this? No, I didn't, because I'm texting on my phone and I have work and I have this and that. And the first time that my kids told me, like, Mom, you're always on your phone, that's where, you know, it really, really hit me, where I have to be present in everything, in every situation that I do. I said it before, it's one of the best quotes, and, you know, Gio actually would always say it too. Your perspective drives your performance. So if anything, if I change somebody's perspective on this call and just their outlook on anything, you know, that means the world to me. So I guess I'll end with that if there's any questions.
I think we might need a break, just all cool down from that, because that was absolute fire, all of it, Sasha. Thank you so much. From my own personal perspective, and then what I'm seeing in the chat, I gotta say, this is probably one of the top 5 best winning webinars we've ever had. Your perspective on everything is just absolutely perfect. And I think, you know, not being a mom, unfortunately, I'm not able to give the same type of feedback that you have today. And I think you have just hit that so many people, that you hit the spot for so many mothers on this call, and even people who aren't mothers. Just your perspective on things is just absolute golden. I had people literally blowing up my phone, you know, executives at home office. Tommy, Dina, thank you so much for allowing Sasha to join us today. Tommy's like, please tell me that you have us recorded. I said, will have it to you today. So we got this recorded for everyone. I will get that sent off to everyone. Sasha, you did more than I anticipated today. So I really, really appreciate it. You're an absolute rock star. It's so great to reconnect with you after 14 years. We only have time for probably 1 or 2 questions. So Natalie, I'm going to stop wasting time here and just pass it off to you. If you want to ask, if we can limit it to maybe 3 questions. If we go a couple minutes over, that's okay. I know people need to hop off, but we'll get 3 questions answered since we have a dozen in the
All right. So Miss Sasha, what advice, this is an anonymous attendee, I wish I could give him credit, but it is a good question. What advice do you have for people that are just starting off new in the business?
That's a great question. Starting off new in the business is understand that this isn't short term. This is long term. We're not in this for the immediate paycheck. Immediate paycheck pays bills currently, but we're in this for the long term, for the residual income. So you have to have, you know, changing your perspective. You have to have that perspective, knowing that, you know, your input determines your output, and we all are. This is just an experience. You know, time is never wasted. That's an opportunity gained. So that would be my biggest thing, is have patience, because it really all just is a numbers game. And, you know, the harder you work, the luckier that you do get.
No such thing as luck. I love it. How about book recommendations? I know we ask this on every call, but everybody wants to know where all of this genius comes from, Miss Sasha.
I'm going to be honest with you. I, you know, am not the best not the best at reading. I can obviously read, but, you know, my spare time in books, I really, you know, so the 10X Rule is a really, really good book. I read that multiple times, but, you know, it's really just make that commitment and then you just figure it out. Like, you're just going to go, like, make the commitment and then you figure it out. So make that commitment to jump all in, you know, with American Income, and then you figure out the pieces. But my biggest suggestion is, for me, reading is reading on what's going to benefit not only myself in a work environment, but my clients. So I want to read on, like, my reading is reading like an FEGLI, like the, you know, handbooks of like the federal employees, of like how their benefits work and things of that sort. So like my reading is a little bit different. I want to know how life insurance works for every single different person, Veterans Association, you know, reading all of those different things, and then articles of how it affects like today. But that is a really good book that I would recommend.
Awesome.
Love that.
Last question, Natalie, make it a good one.
Yes, last question. We're gonna go ahead and end with a question from Sue. And then the question would be, if you knew then what you know now, is there anything that you would have done differently?
If I knew then what I knew now, I probably would have done it a lot sooner. Once you rip off the Band-Aid, it's never as bad as it seems. And I probably procrastinated for a long time, even jumping in, to American Income, regardless of what agency that it was. But if I know what I knew now, I probably would be, 14 years vested, Renee, and never give up, whenever I first was with American Income. So that's my biggest regret. But that would be the biggest thing, is you just make a decision and run with it. Don't procrastinate, and just go all in.
Sasha, once again, thank you so much. I think this was, like I said, by far, I got to give me a little bit more time, but definitely my top 5 favorites. It might even be ranked higher than that. So I really appreciate you joining. Thank you to the Tommy Vina organization, everyone that helped train Sasha, and then everyone that you're training as well. So it's awesome to see so much support in the chat for you as well. So great connecting with you once again. You're amazing. For everyone that joined this call, I will get this recording sent off by the end of the day today. As long as you logged in with your registration, that's how I go ahead and send the email with the link to that. Sasha, you will be included. So I'm so proud of you. It's amazing to see where you've come. And I wish that you would have started 14 years ago too. Just imagine where you'd be. So awesome. Thank you so much for your time, guys. If you want to mark your calendars for the very last WIN webinar of the year, it will be next month, December 6th, Wednesday, December 6th. Go ahead and mark your calendars for that. We have a very special guest already determined. We're going to wait to announce it until we have the graphics put together. So we'll get that out to you guys soon. Appreciate everyone for joining today. And once again, thank you, Sasha. You killed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.